All right, fellow officiants and celebrants.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
Should you officiate using an old-fashioned paper copy, or should you go full tech in the future, use an iPad for it? Look, people have opinions, and yes, couples are going to notice a difference. Let's break down the pros and cons of using each of them right now. Today we are at Langdon Hall, one of the most beautiful places in Cambridge. This place is stunning. Little known fact, I actually placed a very low bid to take this place over.
You're the bidder. $1, boy! $1 it is.
They weren't interested, but it's a pretty nice spot. The ceremony from today takes place in a very small and intimate space with less than 20 guests. I set up my sound system to be able to control the music during the processional, signing, and the recessional. For those reasons and more is why I choose to use my iPad for a ceremony like this. For tips on how I do this, my script templates, and more, check out my course, Deliver Better Ceremonies. All the info you need is right there.
Are you a new officiant or celebrant and have no idea how to write or deliver a ceremony? Are you an experienced officiant or celebrant looking for a fun and unique way to deliver your next ceremony? My name is Jeff and I've performed over 1,500 ceremonies around the world and in exotic locations. I have a unique style of writing and delivering ceremonies that couples have loved and other officiants have asked to buy. So for the first time, I'm going to share with you in a course the actual ceremony script I use from beginning to end. I'm leaving nothing out. Included in this course are videos on how I write my ceremonies with the actual ceremony templates and questionnaires I use every week of the year. I'm talking full ceremony breakdown. I'm talking ceremony templates. I'm talking questionnaires. Look, you get the idea. What are you still doing here? What are you waiting for? Get the course now. Go ahead, your future couples will thank you and your calendar will be full. See you on the inside.
What's going on around this place? One of my favorite parts at the end of every ceremony is I get mic'd up. And so then I end up with this stuff. And I like leaving little voice notes for whoever it is that's gonna get this. Sometimes it's me singing a song, sometimes me like reciting a soliloquy, maybe like a haiku or something. But for today's guys, they're gonna get a nice little conversation that Tim and I had. What is a haiku? Is it 575?
Yeah. Garth, that was a haiku.
I can't think of a haiku off the top of my head. I don't think I have any haikus. Can you write me a haiku about Langdon Hall and the wedding I just did, question mark? While I was standing here overlooking this beautiful croquet fields, I was inspired and wrote a haiku. Vows, perfect. Crowd slayed. Langdon trembled with delight. Officiant, elite. That's a keeper. That's a good one, guys. That's all yours. You can use that one if you want. Maybe you want to use that as B-roll, like maybe just voiceover stuff. Feel free to use any of that stuff. You have my permission for all of it. You know, any royalties that come from that haiku, feel free to like send a couple bucks to your boy. That'd be all right too. But other than that, I really hope you appreciate that gem. All right, let's get into the main reason you're here: the pros and cons of paper versus iPad. Okay, so here's my take. If it were me, I'd be using an iPad. I wouldn't be doing the paper. Here are a couple reasons why. It looks sleek in photos. It's small, it fits perfectly in your hand. You can hold it with one hand, hold the mic in the other. It's going to look great. Photographers will love you for using something that's not obtrusive or distracting in the photos. Secondly, as you just saw in this ceremony, I like to control the music. This allows me to control music. I also am a pretty dynamic speaker. I like to move around a lot. I'm pretty expressive, and an iPad allows me to do all of that and scroll up and down just by using my thumb, and so I can really easily move around. I'm not flipping pages with it. Next, it's got a backlit screen, which is perfect if you're doing some of those chic, low light elopements or ceremonies where it's just not very bright. You can just dial up the brightness a little bit more to see it perfectly. The last really obvious pro to using an iPad is it's eco-friendly. You're not printing 45 billion sheets of paper per year and then just immediately launching it after. Let's talk about some of the cons. There's some really obvious ones when you introduce tech into any ceremony. The main one being the battery. Oh my gosh, maybe your cell phone has been at 1% and you're just stressing nonstop. I can tell you, if you show up to a wedding and this thing is not charged, that will be the worst day of your life. Secondly is tech fails. I mean, if you didn't make the file available offline, or if there's an update and this thing is messed up, or you get to a space and you're in the middle of nowhere with no data, no ability to tether onto your phone, and you can't get the ceremony, that is truly a nightmare. That's bad news. The last one, if you're not using the proper case for it, it can feel a little bit less traditional, and sometimes that's not the right vibe that couples are going for. So as long as you have a sleek case for it, it's gonna look okay, but otherwise it can be a bit of a barrier. Let's talk about some of the pros of printing out your ceremony. Number one, the obvious one, there are no tech glitches. You show up, it's on paper, it's easy enough to read. That's an obvious one. Number two, you can mark it up easily. Have to make some last minute changes, pause for laughter. Don't cry here, Jeff. You wanna write some notes in there? You can do that on the fly. Super easy to do. And lastly, in some instances, it might actually fit the vibe of what the couple's actually looking for. It might work. If I was so inclined to have a paper copy, I would probably use something like this, and I would print it out because my writing, by the way, is terrible. And so I would probably print it and just paste it in here, because personally, I think this looks a lot nicer in photos than this does. Let's talk about some of the cons. One of the main ones is the elements. Look, if it's raining or if it's windy, these pages are gonna be blowing in the wind, and that's gonna be really distracting. It's not really gonna look great in the photos. The last con is actually a pro for using digital, is that if you lose this single paper copy that you have, then you're in trouble. You got nothing left, and that's a problem. Here are some tips if you are going to use an iPad. I would make sure to get a good case for it. This is actually a Dodo case. They make these incredibly sleek, really nice cases. One of the things you're not going to want to do is get one with a really stupid color on the inside, like this dumb guy did and had red. I don't know what he was doing. I actually reached out to Dodo Case personally and said, would you be able to make me one that's actually just got black on the inside? Because a lot of photographers are not too psyched about the red on the inside. So get a good case, make sure it fits it perfectly. These ones are awesome. You want to relieve some anxiety? Make sure to get a power bank for this thing, because there is nothing worse than showing up and realizing you've been watching Netflix on this thing all day and it's almost dead. That's bad news. Plug it in when you get there or on the drive. I use an Anchor. This thing will charge it 10 million times in about 4 seconds. It is well worth the investment, but make sure you bring it with you to every single ceremony. Another very important tip for you is to make sure that the ceremony file is available offline. That means you need to download it onto the iPad. I use Google Drive. I think that's the easiest way to do it. But again, nothing worse than showing up to the ceremony only to find out you hadn't done that, and then you can't even tether to your phone to get data. That's bad news. You need to make sure and test it at home before you leave the house that that file is available offline, so when you show up, you're not surprised when you're about to start the ceremony. Let's talk, which iPad should you get? Look, you don't need the one that controls the space station. That's not the one we need to be able to read ceremonies on. You need to get an iPad mini. It doesn't really matter if it's the newest one or not. It needs to be able to handle Google Drive, which most of them can and shouldn't have an issue. They're smaller and they look better in photos. Don't get one of those giant stupid 80-inch ones that you're gonna be holding up there like this. It's not gonna look good for photos. I would also recommend that the iPad that you use for your ceremonies is only for ceremonies. You don't also use it for gaming or doing whatever it is that you like to do on an iPad. You wanna make sure this thing's always ready to go and it's always going to work. Your kid didn't download 65 games on it. Very important that this becomes just your work iPad, and that's all it's used for. Again, you introduce tech, you introduce some different variables. You wanna make sure before the ceremony that this thing is on airplane mode, that you're not gonna get any notifications through the iPad during the ceremony. That would be the worst. Make sure airplane mode before you walk down that aisle. Pro tip move for you, when you're in dark lit spaces, you can turn down the brightness on here so you don't get this massive glare on your face. It will make those ceremony photos look so much better, because if you have it dialed up all the way to sun, it's going to be incredibly bright and every photo will just be blown out. It kind of looks like that scene in Pulp Fiction where like they open the briefcase and they just get hit with this really bright light. Cool in the movie, not so much in real life during a wedding ceremony. Another tip for you is you need to keep this thing out of direct sunlight. You don't want this thing baking all afternoon, baby. You know what happens? It's gonna turn off. It's not gonna work. Maybe you've done that with your cell phone before where you've left it in the sun and it says that it's powered down. Nothing will get your heart rate faster than you going to pick up the iPad and realizing it's shut itself down and it says it needs to cool down some more, because who knows how long that takes. So keep this thing out of direct sunlight before the ceremony. Another one too, to make sure that this thing doesn't flip or rotate the ceremony script during the ceremony, lock that orientation to portrait. It's nothing worse than you go ahead to try and scroll and you spin the actual ceremony script. It's super hard and then it's embarrassing when you're trying to get it back to the right place. When you type up that ceremony, make sure to use a font that's large enough that you can actually read it. That's one of the benefits of actually using the iPad, is you can increase the font size. So make sure it's a size that you feel comfortable that you can read really easily. Look, there's some people that are torn between a phone and an iPad for the ceremony. Guys, if you're using a phone, You should never be doing that. This is definitely not something that you should rely on for reading a ceremony. It just does not fit the vibe, no matter how big the phone is. This thing's kind of a monster phone, but it would look awful in ceremony photos. And truthfully, it would look like I'm just kind of messing around like on Instagram or something. That's not what we want for the ceremony. It does not look professional. Don't use a phone. If you're gonna go tech, it has to be a tablet. My recommendation is an iPad mini. What just happened here? I killed a spider? What? How did that even happen?
Get it?
Ugh.
Gross.
That's a gift for the couple. So look, it's not about choosing what's cooler. It's about choosing what makes you calm, confident, fully present with the couple. That's the option that I would choose. So, are you team paper or team iPad? Leave a comment, let me know. And look, if you want more tips like this, subscribe to this channel where we give away tons of this information. Or better yet, check out our course, Deliver Better Ceremonies, where we talk about everything tech related to delivering better ceremonies to getting yourself booked to do more weddings. All right, guys, can't wait to see you in the next one. Guys, I feel like a creeper in the bushes. I'm gonna go over there and I gotta give this thing back to you so I don't take it home.
Go now, Go.
Okay.